Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're jumping into some really interesting English words. We're exploring how language helps us talk about specific feelings and situations like being alone, or maybe just needing a break, or describing something truly, out of the ordinary.
That's right. It's easy to just use words without thinking, but today we want to sort of unpack a few specific ones. Think of it less like just reading definitions and more like, well, an English lesson, really. Looking at the power these words hold.
Exactly. Linguistic tools, you could say. We want to see what they really mean, how they work in different contexts, and what subtle messages they carry. It's all about getting more precise with our language.
hmm And we've got a great set to work with today. We're going to look closely at isolated lays, the phrase off the beaten track, relax, remarkable, and also the adverb form remarkably.
Okay, sounds good. So let's roll up our sleeves. Where should we start? What makes these words tick?
Well, let's start with separation, how we describe being apart.
Perfect. And our first word for that is isolated.
Right. Isolated. It's an adjective.
Yeah.
And at its core, it means being far away from other places, buildings, people, remote.
Okay, so straight away it brings up ideas of separation, yeah? Being alone, distance from the center of things.
Precisely. That's the main idea. But what's really interesting about isolated is how flexible that core idea is. It's not just about miles on a map.
Right. It goes deeper than just physical distance.
It does. Let's start with the physical, though, a classic example. The small village was completely isolated during the heavy snowstorm.
Ah, okay, so here it's something external, the weather, that's causing the isolation.
Exactly. The snow physically cut them off. No way in, no way out. The separation is forced by the environment.
But you said it's not always physical. What about feelings? Like this one. She felt isolated after moving to a new city where she knew no one.
Yeah, that's a powerful one. It shows the emotional or social side of isolation, doesn't it? She could be surrounded by millions of people. But without connections, without knowing anyone, she feels completely alone, disconnected. The location itself doesn't matter as much as that lack of social ties. It really teaches you that isolated is about connection, or the lack of it.
That feeling of being adrift. Okay, but back to physical locations for a sec. It's often used for places deliberately chosen for their remoteness, right? Like the research facility was located in an isolated area far from any urban centers.
That's geographic remoteness by design. They put the facility way out there, probably for specific reasons, maybe security, maybe to avoid noise or pollution, things like that. The location itself is the isolation.
And sometimes people choose that separation personally. He lived an isolated life, preferring solitude to social gatherings.
That's it. Chosen isolation. He actively picked a lifestyle away from others. It's not something happening to him, it's his preference. So isolated can definitely carry that sense of intention.
And that intention can be positive depending on the goal. Like, the isolated cabin offered perfect tranquility for a writer.
Yeah, exactly. The remoteness, the lack of distractions in that cabin actually helps create the ideal environment for creativity, for peace. The isolation enables something good.
It applies to whole communities, too. Isolated communities often rely on self-sufficiency.
Right. If you live far away from major centers, by choice or history, you often have to provide for yourselves. Food, services, everything. The isolation shapes the whole way of life, forces that kind of independence.
We also use it in a very functional way, don't we? Particularly thinking about health or safety. The patient was kept in an isolated room to prevent the spread of infection.
Definitely. This is isolation for a specific practical purpose. Containment. Keeping something, like an infection, from spreading. The person isn't geographically remote, but functionally separated for safety.
And circling back to that emotional state, this example really hits home. Despite being in a crowded room, she felt completely isolated.
It really does. It hammers home the point that isolation isn't just about being physically alone. It's that deep internal feeling of disconnection, even when surrounded by people. A psychological state. Feeling apart.
Okay. And geographic isolation can lead to unique physical outcomes too, right? The isolated island was home to unique species found nowhere else.
Yes, that's evolution in action. A remote island, cut off for millennia, allows life to develop differently. The physical separation leads directly to unique biological forms. Think Galapagos.
Right, or even learning something new can feel isolating at first. Learning a new language can feel a bit isolated at first.
Oh, absolutely. When you're just starting out, you're sort of In your own little bubble, aren't you? You can't easily jump into conversations. You feel separate from those who are fluent. It's a temporary kind of isolation in the learning process.
And speaking of isolation on a bigger scale, the pandemic led to many people feeling more isolated than ever before.
Yeah, that's a huge recent example. Lockdowns, physical distancing. It forced separation and triggered widespread feelings of loneliness for so many. Shows how major events can create collective isolation.
Isolation can also preserve things like culture. The isolated tribe had maintained its ancient customs for centuries.
Exactly. Being geographically remote often means less outside influence, less pressure to assimilate. So traditional ways of life, customs, languages, they can sometimes survive much longer because of that separation.
And some people actively seek it out for leisure. He spent his vacation in an isolated mountain retreat.
Yeah, getting away from it all. Choosing a remote spot like a mountain cabin, specifically to escape the noise and busyness of everyday life. Seeking isolation for peace and quiet, for rejuvenation.
But there's a downside too, especially for development. The data show that children who are isolated from peers often struggle socially.
That's a really important point. Lack of interaction with other kids can hinder the development of social skills. That separation, that isolation from their peer group can have lasting negative effects.
Even natural features can create a sense of isolation on a smaller scale. The small farm was isolated by miles of open fields.
hmm It doesn't have to be mountains or oceans, just wide open space surrounding a place can make it feel separate, cut off from neighbors or the nearest town, a gentler kind of geographic isolation.
And back to intentional isolation, maybe for a specific practice. She intentionally chose an isolated spot for her meditation.
Right. Finding a secluded place helps minimize distractions. If you want to focus inward for meditation or reflection, being physically separate helps create that focused environment. The isolation serves the practice.
Okay, here's an interesting one using isolated metaphorically. The problem wasn't isolated to one department. It affected the whole company.
Yeah, that's a great example. Here, isolated means confined or limited. Saying the problem wasn't isolated means it spread, it wasn't contained. You use the idea of separation to highlight how widespread something became.
So it contrasts with being limited. Makes sense. And then just the simple act of building something remote. He built an isolated cabin deep in the woods.
That's the physical act of creating isolation, isn't it? Choosing a location deep in the woods and constructing a dwelling there, deliberately creating remoteness.
And as we touched on with the pandemic, that feeling of isolation can have serious consequences. The feeling of being isolated can lead to depression.
Absolutely crucial. That sense of loneliness, of being cut off socially and emotionally, is a major risk factor for mental health issues like depression. It underscores the psychological impact.
Sometimes isolation just means something hidden waiting to be found. They discovered an isolated natural spring hidden in the valley.
Yeah, like a secret spot. Because it was remote, secluded, maybe hard to get to, it remained undiscovered. The isolation protected it, kept it hidden.
Wow. Okay, so isolated really does cover a lot of ground. It's not just far away.
Not at all. It's physical distance, yes, but also geographic remoteness. That lack of social connection, a chosen state for solitude, a functional separation for safety, even a metaphor for containment.
It really captures different dimensions of separation and its consequences.
Exactly. Understanding all that really unlocks what the word can do.
Okay, fantastic. So from being apart, let's shift to, well, doing almost nothing. Our next word is laze.
Laze, it's a verb. And the basic meaning is simply to spend time relaxing and doing very little.
Doing very little, but the feeling is important here, right? It sounds quite positive, like you're enjoying the inactivity.
That's the key implication. It's relaxed, often idle, but typically for pleasure. It's leisurely, unhurried. The enjoyment comes from the inactivity itself or maybe doing something very gentle and pleasant. There's a sense of contentment in it.
Okay, so maybe contrast that with relax early on. Relaxing is more about getting rid of stress, maybe.
Exactly. Relax often focuses on reducing tension or anxiety.
Mm.
Laze, on the other hand, is more about the positive embrace of doing nothing or doing something very low-key just because it feels good. It's like active enjoyment of not being busy.
That's a really useful distinction, reducing tension versus enjoying idleness. Okay, let's see how that plays out. A classic scenario. We spent the whole afternoon just lazing by the pool.
Perfect picture, isn't it? You're just there by the pool, maybe reading a bit, maybe dozing, maybe sipping a drink, but definitely not doing laps or anything strenuous. The pleasure is in that unhurried, easy poolside time.
Or somewhere really comfortable. She loves to laze in bed on Sunday mornings.
Yeah, Sunday mornings in bed places and times we associate with rest, right? She finds genuine pleasure in just staying there, maybe reading, maybe just thinking, enjoying the lack of obligation and the pure comfort.
And you can really commit to it. He decided to laze around the house all day, enjoying his day off.
Total commitment. Spending the entire day at home with absolutely no plans, no chores, no productivity goals,
Mm.
just dedicating the day to ease and comfort in his own space. It's a deliberate choice.
Animals seem to be pros at this. The cat would often laze in the sunbeam, completely content.
Oh, definitely. Cats are masters of lazing, just soaking up the warmth, totally relaxed, utterly content. It shows that pure, effortless enjoyment of simply being in a pleasant spot.
That sounds like my ideal vacation goal, honestly. I could just laze on the beach all vacation long.
Right. It expresses that deep desire for sustained, blissful idleness. The thought of spending the whole holiday just happily doing nothing on the sand. That's peak relaxation for a lot of people. Pure lazing.
But it doesn't mean literally doing nothing, does it? Let's laze on the hammock and read.
Good point. Reading is an activity, but it's a very gentle, low-effort, enjoyable one. Relaxing in a hammock while reading fits the spirit of lazing, perfectly unhurried ease, simple pleasure. It's not about absolute zero activity, just nothing demanding.
People might choose a destination specifically for this. They came to the resort specifically to laze and forget their worries.
Yeah, the purpose of their trip was to laze. They picked the resort as the place to do it, to unwind, chill out, let go of stress. The location facilitates the planned, enjoyable idleness.
In a very common home scenario, he enjoys lazing on the sofa while watching TV.
It's super relatable. Combining that physical inactivity on the couch with passive entertainment. It's another low-effort way to pass the time, enjoyed specifically because it's not demanding.
Another animal example, showing a practical reason too. The dogs would laze in the shade during the hottest part of the day.
Smart dogs, resting in the cool shade when it's boiling hot. For animals, lazing is also just a sensible way to cope with conditions, conserve energy, avoid overheating.
I like this one for highlighting the intention against productivity. I just want to laze and do nothing productive today.
It makes that contrast explicit, doesn't it? Deliberately choosing not to do anything seen as work or useful. It's valuing the state of non-doing, of pure relaxation for its own sake.
And lazing can feel like necessary recovery sometimes. After a long week, it's good to just laze and recover.
Definitely. It's presented here as restorative, using that relaxed, idle time specifically to recharge your batteries after being busy or tired.
Combining it with simple sensory pleasure. She likes to laze in the garden, listening to the birds.
Lovely image. Relaxing outdoors, not doing much, just soaking in the sounds of nature. It's gentle, present, content.
It can happen in more specific, maybe even luxurious settings. He was seen lazing on the deck of his yacht.
Sure. Lazing on a yacht deck paints a picture of a certain leisurely lifestyle, maybe, where enjoying downtime and comfortable, perhaps affluent surroundings is just part of the norm.
And we often pair lazing with simple comforts. The best way to laze is with a good book and a cup of tea.
Yeah, it suggests that while lazing is about inactivity, these small, comforting things reading, a warm drink can actually enhance that state of relaxed idleness. They complement it perfectly.
It's not always a solo activity either. They were all lazing about, enjoying the holiday spirit.
Right, you can laze together, relaxing as a group, maybe chatting idly, just soaking up a shared mood like the festive feeling of a holiday, a collective sense of ease.
But for some people, it's actually hard to do. She found it hard to laze when there was so much to do.
That's a real conflict for many people. The pressure of responsibilities, the mental to-do list, makes it difficult to switch off and just be. Lazing requires letting go of that must-be-productive mindset.
Which suggests, maybe for some, it's a skill to be learned. He taught himself how to laze effectively after years of overworking.
Interesting idea, isn't it? That for people driven by constant activity, truly relaxing and enjoying downtime might not come naturally. It might take conscious effort to allow yourself to be idle and find pleasure in it.
Kids seem to have it down naturally, though. The children love to laze on the grass, watching the clouds.
Oh, absolutely. That ability to just lie there, absorbed in something simple like cloud gazing, it connects lazing to childhood, imagination, finding joy in just being present.
And it might even help mentally, not just physically. I need a whole day just to laze and clear my mind.
Yeah, suggesting that this kind of unhurried inactivity isn't just restful for the body, but it can quiet the mental chatter too, allowing for mental clarity, a sort of reset.
And linking it to a specific time or preference. Lazing in the sun is her favorite summer activity.
Just relaxing in the warmth is her top way to enjoy summer. It shows how lazing can be tied to seasons, specific conditions, and personal preferences.
Okay, so laze is really about that enjoyment of inactivity or very low-key activity. It feels contented, unhurried, and deliberately unproductive in a good way. Very different from just relaxing to de-stress.
That distinction really holds up, I think. Okay, we've covered being separate with isolated and enjoying doing very little with lays. Shall we shift to describing places now, specifically those less common spots? We're talking off the beaten track.
Ah, off the beaten track. That's an idiom, right?
It is. So the meaning isn't literal. Its core definition is being in a place that isn't well known or often visited.
Right, and the implication feels really strong here. It suggests someone wants a different kind of experience, unique, maybe less touristy, more authentic, seeking out the unusual, avoiding the crowds.
Exactly. It's not just describing the location, it's describing a mindset, a travel philosophy almost.
Yeah.
You usually go off the beaten track on purpose, like in this example. They preferred to travel off the beaten track to experience local culture.
Okay, so that nails the why. They chose less popular places specifically to get a real feel for the local way of life, something maybe harder to find in big tourist zones. The idiom captures that search for authenticity.
And it doesn't have to be halfway across the world, it could be local. We found a lovely little restaurant, completely off the beaten track.
A hidden gem. Yeah, finding a great place that's not on the main drag, not in the guidebooks, a discovery away from the usual spots.
And exploring these less-known areas often leads to pleasant surprises. Getting off the beaten track often leads to unexpected discoveries.
Right, because it's less mapped out, less predictable. You might stumble upon something wonderful, a view, a shop, an event precisely because you went where most people don't. The phrase implies potential for novelty.
For people who love the outdoors, it often applies to the paths themselves. She enjoys hiking trails that are definitely off the beaten track.
So, quieter trails, less maintained maybe, more challenging. Seeking solitude or a more raw nature experience away from the crowds. The idiom describes the trail's character, its lack of heavy footfall.
And this whole idea is popular enough to be a niche. His travel blog focuses on places off the beaten track.
Makes sense. He caters to people specifically looking for those unique, under-the-radar destinations. The phrase itself defines his specialism.
And logically, heading away from the crowds leads to a certain atmosphere. If you want peace and quiet, you need to go off the beaten track.
Stands to reason. Fewer people, less development usually means more tranquility. The idiom connects remoteness with peacefulness.
Sometimes reaching these places takes more work, but it's seen as worthwhile. The ancient ruins were a bit off the beaten track, but worth the effort.
Yeah, acknowledging it might be harder to get to remote, maybe difficult access, but the experience of seeing the ruins justified the extra trouble. It balances the effort against the reward.
It can influence accommodation choices too. We tried to find a hotel that was a little off the beaten track for more privacy.
Looking for something maybe smaller, quieter, away from the main tourist hustle, specifically to get more seclusion, using location for privacy.
And your transport might enable this kind of exploration. He likes to explore areas off the beaten track on his motorcycle.
Right, a motorbike can get places a car can't, opening up more remote areas, less traveled roads. It facilitates the off-the-beaten-track journey.
Just using it simply to describe a place? Visiting that small village was truly getting off the beaten track.
Yeah, straightforward. Going to that tiny, presumably non-touristy village felt like a genuine departure from the mainstream travel experience.
Applies to natural spots too, often beautiful ones. This hidden beach is definitely off the beaten track. That connection between hidden and off the beaten track is strong. It's secluded, not well known, maybe hard to access, which is why it's still special or pristine. And we keep coming back to that idea of authenticity. For an authentic experience, try venturing off the beaten track.
It suggests that genuine interactions, seeing the real place away from the tourist facade, is more likely when you leave the main routes.
Certain types of sites naturally fit this description. The remote monastery was truly off the beaten track.
Classic example, often built in secluded locations, requiring a dedicated journey to reach. It embodies that sense of remoteness and purposefulness.
And discovering natural wonders often happens this way. We heard about a beautiful waterfall that was completely off the beaten track.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing. A stunning natural feature, but hidden away, not signposted everywhere. The combination makes it sound like a real discovery.
But there's often a trade-off, isn't there? Traveling off the beaten track requires more planning, but offers greater rewards.
Right. You might need to figure out transport, accommodation, maybe language barriers more carefully. But the payoff is potentially a much more unique, memorable experience.
And you might find unique places to stay that aren't big chains. They found a charming guest house that was just off the beaten track.
Yeah, discovering a lovely, perhaps family-run place away from the center, offering a more personal touch. Part of the appeal is finding these unique spots.
This interest can even shape creative work.
Mm.
His photography often captures scenes from places off the beaten track.
So his artistic focus is on the unseen, the unusual locations, documenting the corners of the world that most people don't photograph.
And for some, it's not just one trip, it's how they operate. She's always looking for new places off the beaten track to explore.
It describes a personality trait almost. A constant desire for discovery, for avoiding the predictable, for seeking out the unique.
And if the goal is total disconnection, to truly disconnect, you need to go far off the beaten track.
Yeah, suggests that real unplugging requires deep remoteness, getting away from signals, from the constant hum of connectivity. The idiom emphasizes the necessary degree of separation.
And often, the best memories involve people. The most memorable part of their trip was going off the beaten track and meeting locals.
That combination is key for many who seek this kind of travel. Exploring unusual places and having genuine interactions with the people who live there, that's often the real reward. So off the beaten track is fascinating. It's about location remote, unpopular, but it's packed with meaning about the traveler's intention and the kind of experience they're seeking. Authenticity, discovery, peace, escaping the mainstream.
It really does capture a whole approach to travel in just 4 words. Okay, let's move to another word related to rest, the one we contrasted with laze,
Relax.
relax, also a verb.
And the core meaning, to make or become less tense or anxious, or to rest or do something enjoyable, specifically to become less stressed. Okay, so the key here is that reduction of tension, right? Letting go of worry, physical tightness. That's the focus. Unlike laze, which was about enjoying the idleness itself.
Precisely. The focus is the release. Often you need to relax because you're stressed or tense to begin with. Like this common feeling, after a stressful week, all I want to do is relax.
Totally get that. The desire to unwind, de-stress, recover after a tough period. Relaxation is the antidote.
And people use specific techniques to achieve it. She tried to relax by doing some deep breathing exercises.
Right, so it's an active process sometimes, using a method like controlled breathing to intentionally calm the body and mind.
Or it can be a mental instruction you give yourself. He told himself to just relax and enjoy the moment.
Yeah, that internal voice saying, okay, let go of the tension, be present, appreciate this. A conscious effort to shift state.
We often allocate specific time for it. We plan to relax by the beach all day tomorrow.
Setting aside time, choosing a location, the beach, all with the goal of unwinding and reducing stress. It's a planned activity.
And external things can definitely help. Listening to classical music helps me relax.
Sure, music, nature sounds, a warm bath, things that facilitate that shift towards less tension. Different things work for different people.
And it's seen as increasingly vital for well-being. It's important to take time to relax every day.
Not just a weekend luxury, but a daily necessity for managing stress and staying healthy, mentally and physically.
And it definitely has that physical component. The warm bath helped her muscles to relax.
You can literally feel the tension releasing from your muscles. It's a physiological response, not just in the mind.
We often say it directly to others who seem stressed. Can you just relax for a minute?
Yeah, like a plea or advice to someone visibly agitated. Calm down, take a breath, ease up.
Like lazing, people travel specifically to relax. They came here to relax and escape their busy lives.
Similar motivation, but the emphasis feels slightly different. Escaping the stress and pressure of a busy life seems central to relaxing in this context.
And for some, it's a skill they need to develop. He needs to learn how to relax and not be so uptight.
Suggests it doesn't come easily to everyone. Learning to let go, be less rigid, might require conscious practice for some personality types.
It's also used simply for reassurance. Just relax. Everything will be fine.
Yeah, calming someone's anxiety by suggesting the situation isn't as bad as they fear, or that worrying won't help.
People build it into routines, especially around sleep. She likes to relax with a cup of herbal tea before bed.
Using a calming ritual, like having tea, as a deliberate step to wind down, release the day's tension, and prepare for sleep.
And therapeutic methods aim directly at relaxation. The massage helped him completely relax.
Right, using touch therapy specifically to release physical and mental tension, leading to a deep state of relaxation.
And like with lazing, unfinished business can get in the way. I find it hard to relax when I have so many tasks to do.
That mental load, the pressure of responsibilities makes it difficult to truly switch off and let the tension go.
But relaxing can enhance enjoyment by allowing presence. Let's relax and enjoy the view.
By calming down, letting go of stress, you can better appreciate what's around you, like the scenery, without being distracted by internal tension.
Interesting that we even try to teach animals to relax. He taught his dog to relax by giving it treats.
Using rewards to encourage a calm state in a pet shows the concept extends beyond just humans.
Home is often the prime location for it. After a long day, it's nice to just relax at home.
Yeah, the comfort, security, and familiarity of your own space often makes it the easiest place to unwind and shed the day's stress.
And mental techniques are key for many. She uses meditation to help her mind relax.
Using mindfulness or other practices specifically to quiet the mind, release mental tension, and achieve calm. A mental discipline.
Sometimes it's even prescribed. The doctor advised him to relax and take a break from work.
Medical advice, highlighting how crucial reducing stress and taking time to relax is for physical and mental health, sometimes requiring a break from the source of stress.
And ultimately, it often needs conscious planning. It's essential to schedule time to relax into your day.
Treating it not as an afterthought, but as a necessary appointment with yourself, making time for it because it won't just happen otherwise. Okay, so relax is definitely centered on reducing tension, anxiety, stress. It's a process, a state you achieve through various means, aimed at becoming calmer and less tense. Different feel from laze.
A very useful distinction. All right, moving to our final pair. These are about describing things that are, well, exceptional. Let's start with the adjective, remarkable.
Remarkable, adjective.
And the core idea is worthy of attention, striking or unusual.
So if something is remarkable, it stands out. It's notable, extraordinary, impressive, something that makes you stop and take notice because it's exceptional or unique in some way.
Exactly. It signals something beyond the ordinary, often in a positive or surprising way. It draws attention, like describing a skill. Her ability to speak 5 languages is truly remarkable.
Yeah, that's not average. It's impressive, noteworthy. Way beyond typical linguistic ability. Remarkable elevates it.
Or describing a powerful experience. The view from the mountaintop was absolutely remarkable.
Breathtaking, stunning. So impressive it commands your attention and makes a strong impact. The word conveys that intensity. It can describe overcoming difficulty. He made a remarkable recovery after the accident.
Meaning his recovery was extraordinary, maybe faster or more complete than anyone expected. It was notable because it defied the odds or typical outcomes.
Achievements can certainly be remarkable. The discovery of the new species was a remarkable scientific achievement.
A major breakthrough. Finding a whole new species is a significant, impressive event in science, definitely worthy of being called remarkable.
It works for personal qualities, too. She showed remarkable patience despite the challenging situation.
Her calmness and composure under pressure were exceptional, far beyond what you might normally expect. It highlights an outstanding character trait.
Or the quality of something made long ago. The ancient monument was built with remarkable precision.
Astonishing accuracy, especially given the tools they had back then. The level of skill and precision was so high it stands out as extraordinary.
In art, technical skill can be remarkable. The painting had a remarkable use of light and shadow.
The artist's control over light and shadow was impressively skillful, creating a striking effect. That mastery made the painting stand out. Unexpected events, too. It was a remarkable coincidence that they met again after 20 years. Highly unusual, astonishingly unlikely. The sheer improbability makes the coincidence noteworthy and worth commenting on.
Natural talent can be remarkable. He has a remarkable talent for playing the piano.
Meaning his ability is exceptionally impressive, maybe even compared to other good players. A level of skill that's clearly notable.
Winning against the odds often feels remarkable. The team achieved a remarkable victory against all odds.
Yeah, their win was extraordinary because it was unexpected. Maybe they were the underdogs or faced huge challenges. The success itself was surprising and impressive.
Just being original can be the remarkable thing. The novel's plot was remarkable for its originality.
Its standout feature was how unique and inventive it was. That freshness made it worthy of attention, beyond just being well written.
Deep commitment can be remarkable. Her dedication to charity work is truly remarkable.
Her level of commitment goes far beyond the norm. It's highly admirable, impressive, and noteworthy.
Striking design often gets called remarkable. The building's remarkable architecture draws visitors from around the world.
The design is so unusual, beautiful, or impressive that it's a major attraction. Its architectural quality makes it stand out globally.
Bravery, too. He showed remarkable courage in the face of danger.
Exceptional bravery. His actions stood out as notably courageous, beyond typical reactions to danger.
Rapid or significant growth can be remarkable. The growth of the company has been nothing short of remarkable.
Suggests the expansion was extraordinarily fast, large, or successful, well beyond average business growth.
Amazing food definitely qualifies. The chef prepared a remarkable meal that delighted everyone.
Outstandingly good. The meal stood out as exceptionally delicious and memorable, pleasing everyone who ate it.
Foundational human traits when really strong. The remarkable resilience of the human spirit was evident.
That extraordinary ability people have to endure hardship, bounce back. It's a deeply impressive and noteworthy aspect of humanity.
Specific mental skills. She has a remarkable memory for details.
Her ability to recall specifics is exceptionally strong, noticeably better than average, a standout cognitive skill.
Even history can be remarkable. The town boasts a remarkable history dating back centuries.
Meaning its past is particularly interesting, significant, full of noteworthy events, or long duration, making it stand out.
And a truly great performance earns that description. It was a remarkable performance that earned a standing ovation.
So outstandingly impressive that the audience was moved to give the highest praise, signaling its exceptional quality.
Okay, so remarkable points to things, nouns that are impressive, unusual, striking. They stand out and deserve attention because they're exceptional.
Exactly. And that leads us straight to our final word, the adverb form. Remarkably.
Remarkably, adverb.
And it means in a remarkable manner, or to a remarkable extent.
So this one modifies other words, verbs, adjectives, other adverbs to add that layer of wow, right? To emphasize how unusual or surprising or impressive something is, it quantifies the remarkableness.
That's a great way to put it. It tells you the degree or the manner is exceptional. If remarkable describes the thing, remarkably describes the way it is or the way it happens.
Yeah.
Let's see how it modifies an adverb like speed. He recovered remarkably quickly from his injury.
Ah, so it's not just that he recovered quickly, but the speed itself was surprising, unusually fast. The degree of quickness was remarkable.
Exactly. Or modifying performance. The new software performed remarkably well, exceeding all expectations.
Again, it wasn't just good, it was exceptionally good. The performance level was noteworthy, surprising, better than predicted.
Modifying an adjective, like calmness. She was remarkably calm, despite the chaos around her.
Her calmness was striking, impressive, maybe unusual given the situation. The degree of calm was remarkable.
Or describing detail. The painting is remarkably detailed, almost like a photograph.
The level of detail is exceptional, surprisingly intricate, to a remarkable extent.
Modifying a state like preservation. The small town has remained remarkably unspoiled by tourism.
It's surprising how well it's kept its original character. The degree to which it's unspoiled is noteworthy.
Modifying ability. He is remarkably good at understanding complex theories.
His skill is exceptionally strong, noticeably so, to a remarkable extent.
Modifying temperature. The weather was remarkably warm for this time of year.
Unusually warm, surprisingly so. The degree of warmth was noteworthy for this season.
Modifying how something was done. She handled the criticism remarkably well.
The way she handled it was impressive, composed, effective. Her manner was remarkable.
Modifying preservation state again. The ancient ruins are remarkably well preserved.
Their condition is surprisingly good, impressively intact given their age. The degree of preservation is remarkable.
Modifying efficiency. He finished the difficult task remarkably efficiently.
He did it with exceptional speed and effectiveness. The degree of efficiency was noteworthy.
Modifying innovation. The technology is remarkably innovative.
Exceptionally creative and new. The degree of innovation stands out, describing growth. The plant grew remarkably tall in just a few weeks.
It grew surprisingly, impressively tall in a short time. The extent of the growth was remarkable, describing fluency. He spoke remarkably fluently for someone who learned the language recently,
His fluency level was exceptionally good, surprising for a new learner. The degree of fluency was remarkable.
describing intensity. The silence in the forest was remarkably profound.
The quietness was surprisingly deep, intense. The degree of silence was noteworthy, describing capability. The small device is remarkably powerful.
It has surprisingly strong abilities for its size. The degree of power is remarkable, describing teamwork. The team worked remarkably cohesively,
They collaborated in an impressively unified way. The degree of cohesion was remarkable.
describing attitude. She has a remarkably positive outlook on life,
Her optimism is exceptionally strong, perhaps unusually so. The degree of positivity is remarkable.
describing artistic effect. The artwork is remarkably evocative,
It's surprisingly effective at stirring feelings. Its power to evoke is remarkable.
and modifying a verb directly, he can remarkably remember every detail of his childhood.
His ability to recall is astonishingly precise. The way he remembers or the extent of his memory is remarkable. Okay, so remarkably acts like an amplifier, an intensifier. It adds that sense of surprise or exceptionalness to whatever it's describing, the quality, the action, the manner. It tells us how or to what extent something is remarkable.
Precisely. It flags the degree as being noteworthy.
Wow. We have really covered some ground today, from all those different angles on being separate with isolated.
To the subtle but important differences between enjoying idleness with laze and reducing tension with relax.
Then navigating the whole idea of seeking authentic experiences with off the beaten track.
And finishing with how remarkable and remarkably help us pinpoint things that are truly exceptional and stand out from the crowd.
It's amazing how these seemingly simple words give us such precise tools to talk about specific feelings, places, and qualities.
It really is. And hopefully you, listening at home, can start to notice these nuances more. When you hear someone say isolated, think,
Yeah.
what kind of isolation are they talking about? Is it physical, emotional, chosen?
Or when someone says they're going to laze versus relax, what does that tell you about their intention, their state of mind?
Exactly. What makes something truly remarkable? And how does adding remarkably change the emphasis? Start listening for that precision.
And maybe even try using them more consciously yourself. See how picking just the right word, lazing, instead of just resting, or describing something as remarkably calm, adds that extra layer of meaning.
And here's something to really chew on. How does having these specific words, tools that carve out distinctions like the one between lazing and relaxing, or between physical and emotional isolation, how does having this vocabulary actually influence how we experience the world?
Hmm. Does the language create the categories for our feelings, or do our feelings demand the creation of the language to describe them?
That's the big question, isn't it? The relationship between language and experience. Something to ponder.
Definitely food for thought. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into these fascinating words.
My pleasure. It's been great exploring them.
Until next time.